Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's show, the Beautifully Bruised and CPS show. I am your host, Latrika Jones. Thank you so much for tuning in today, coming in with us, joining us from off of a weekend into Monday. It's already Monday. Oh my God. I was just briefly speaking with the producer, Grace, and she was sharing the same thing like, oh my God, we already into another week. But I thank God we're able to see another week. We have to admit that because so many people didn't get that opportunity, right? So we can't, I am learning the older I'm becoming is that you cannot take nothing for granted. You can't take people for granted. You can't take opportunities for granted. Time is of an essence and you better make use of it because if you look up, like me and Grace was discussing, it'll be gone. So you really have to maximize the moments. And when I hear that, I think about what my grandmother would tell me that, just be careful how you treat people. You never know where they are in their hearts and their spirits. You never know really what people are truly going through, and you never know what words you might say can either break them or actually lift them. So I see why the scripture, the word says, life and death is in the power of the tongue. That is so true, right? One word could actually reset someone to propel them to be better, or it can actually set them back. So if you're like me, you're trying to deal with your own life and things you have to do. So you're not trying to be a hindrance or cause anything to set somebody back in their own life, because life is not easy, right? Life be lifing to the best of us. No one is exempt from it. So without anything else said regarding that, I thank God for this week. I know here in Texas, a lot of people are excited because the eclipse, I think, is supposed to show around 1 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. And again, like I said, I'm not certain things, I think it ain't been shown in like over 800 some years. And I get the big, momentum, everybody renting hotel rooms, expensive hotel rooms, catching flights to see it. And I hope they get what they're looking for. That's all I can say. Because it seems like it will be a sight to see. So a lot of people here in Texas, that is the big momentum that everybody is preparing for later today. But with that being said, like I say, thank God that we're here to see another day, whether the eclipse, you see the eclipse or hear about it or not. I just thank God that we woke up this morning because it gives us another chance to get things right, to make things better, to reevaluate, right? Thankful for Attorney Vince for this show, for this platform, because there are families that are dealing with CPS, with their children being in a system, or they just receive that business card, or just some type of, when you get that card, it's a gut feeling. You're not sure about really what it means, but you know that it has to stand for something. And guess what? It doesn't go away. You can't just ignore it. 9 times out of 10, if they've already created an investigation for you, with CPS, there's something they're already looking into. And again, I'm thankful for this platform with Attorney Vince because he is an attorney that has been fighting CPS for 30 or 40 years to help these children return back home where they belong, right? So again, this is an opportunity where you can come on this channel, his platform 24/7, right? And you can just listen to his wise legal advice to help you with your children. As far as calling the number that you see on the bottom of the screen, call that number right there on the bottom of the screen that you see, and they can actually give you a consultation to help lead you in the right direction and give you some wise advice as far as what it's going to take to handle your case. Each case is uniquely different. Since I've been doing this show, I have heard so many different stories of families that is fighting CPS. We've had some families that recently started a CPS case on up to, we had one particular family, Jennifer White. She's been fighting since 2018. My God. So I'm telling you, it is something that is serious, and you don't want to let time get away from you. So the sooner the better. When you realize you're dealing with CPS, I recommend you reach out to Attorney Vince. And if you can't get Attorney Vince, try to find the fast, look for a wise legal counsel as quickly as possible. Because again, time is of an essence, and you don't want to sit around. You don't want to procrastinate, because the longer you wait, the more CPS can build a case against you. And trust me, CPS, they do not play fair. It is a horror story. It is something that if you're not careful, it will get the best of you. And again, I must share, like I try to do on a regular basis. I'm not saying that everybody that works for CPS is bad. I'm only speaking to the ones that lack integrity, the ones that's only in it for money, power, and politics. They're not really into it for unifying your children back together. And if they're not in it for the right reason, if you lack integrity, yes, I am speaking directly to you. Okay. But if you're not that person, then don't worry. You're needed to help these families that are in need in whatever shape, form, or fashion they may be. But again, I'm only speaking to the ones that lack integrity. They're really not trying to reunify these children back. They're trying to adopt these families, these kids out. And a lot of times these homes are not the best homes that they're selecting to place them in, these foster homes. So it is a lot at stake. It's a lot to be mindful of, okay? And with that being said, I wanted to bring to you something that has been on my mind. And I even realized, I say, you know what? This very same thing is something that CPS looks at as well, and this is something just in life that we all need, no matter if you're dealing with a CPS case or not. This is something that we can all learn from. This is something that can make us be better with our own selves, self-care, self-improvement. No one is perfect. We're all work in progress, right? We're trying to do normally we're trying to do the best we can with what we have, right? So that's why it's so important that we do the work. We all have something that we deal with, whether it's been publicized or not. That's just life. So with that being said, this is what crossed my mind. I think that it's important because when I came across this, and I was actually thinking about this, was something that I was dealing with this weekend, and it made me think about being trustworthy. Have you really just honestly sat back and thought about being trustworthy? Are you somebody that you would consider that's trustworthy? And if you don't know what trustworthy means, it is basically a person who is reliable, who is responsible, and can be trusted completely. Okay, including a trustworthy and level-headed person. Again, someone that's dependable, responsible, mature, trustworthy. And if you really ask yourself, I mean, seriously, if you ask yourself, am I that type of person? Am I somebody that they know that they can depend on, or I'm going to, be responsible with this person or with what's been presented to me? Am I somebody that they can depend on? If you share with me something you're going through, if there's something I know about you that somebody else doesn't know, would I tell somebody? Would I share your business with someone that I know that they've asked me not to do? Okay. Another examples of being trustworthy. Somebody, are you a good person? Are you a good person? I know these questions might be like, what? But no, ask yourself, am I considered a good person? If somebody was to ask somebody about me, do you think I be described as somebody that's good? That's really a good person. He's a good guy. She's a good girl. You know, am I secure? Am I somebody that's steady? Am I somebody that's tried? Like the word says, God is tried and true. Okay. Am I somebody that can be seen like that? Am I dependable? Am I reliable? Am I safe? Am I safe for this person to trust, that no matter what they're going through, good, bad, ugly, and different, am I somebody they can trust to share that with? I was speaking with the producer Grace before we started the show, and she shared that she had a recommendation of someone. And I think that if a person didn't trust her, they wouldn't want her recommendation. Why? Because if you're not showing to be trustworthy yourself, why would I trust what you say? Why would I trust what you do or recommend? So it had to be something in her where she had to be reliable. She had to be responsible. She had to be dependable. It had tried and true. It had to be something within her character to say, okay, if I know I can trust her, then 9 times out of 10, if she's recommending somebody, I'm sure that's somebody I can trust as well. So it's funny how your character can help a person decide whether or not they not only want to recommend whatever you're recommending to them, whether they want to try it or not. Your character is going to reflect if it's something they should trust or not. So that's what I'm saying. Being trustworthy goes a long way. It's a reflection of your, not only your character, but it's also a reflection of your choices. Okay. And I hope that makes sense. But it's normally somebody that's trustworthy, someone, like I said, is safe, which is so important. You want somebody safe. You should be safe for someone. You want to be in a safe relationship. You want to be in a safe environment. You want to be in a safe family. Do you not think CPS look at and decide whether or not if you're safe or not? Or do this person appear to be safe to have this child? Does this person seem to be safe or not to be, or even trustworthy enough for this child to be in their home? They look at that, believe it or not. Whether they say it or not, they are looking at the things you do to determine if you fit these categories. And you might already fit the categories. CPS might have the wrong narrative about you and you having to reprove yourself. But even if that is the case, they're still determining or not, is this person trustworthy? Is this person safe? And like I say, it doesn't necessarily have to be a CPS case. That's something you can ask yourself regarding in a relationship. Is this person safe to love? Is this job a place that's safe for me to work at? Is it? Is it something that that I'm looking to have? Are they going to fulfill what I need? Is the checks going to arrive? Is the benefits going to be there when I need them? I mean, if you really think about it, this affects us all in life. Being trustworthy is someone that's sure, they're sure of themselves, and they're just trustable. This resource, this person, this opportunity, this connection is trustable. Okay, I do believe our platform, Attorney Vince, this platform, I do believe is trustworthy. I do believe the information that I've heard from Attorney Vince and sharing, his wisdom as being an attorney. I know me coming on sharing my information, my experience years ago being a victim to CPS and what I had to experience and go through. And by the grace and mercy of God, I was able to survive and overcome and share my experience to help give others hope to know that I've been where you are. I'm not just speaking from the side of my neck, don't know what I'm talking to, no experience, don't have a clue of what it's like to deal with it. Yes, I do. Been there, done that. And over a year, it took me to come out of that vicious cycle dealing with CPS. And even then, they didn't want to let me go. They were demanded to let me go. They had all the evidence that they need, and they still was trying to keep the case going. Why? Because it's tied to money, power, and politics. People are getting paid off of the narrative that they're trying to paint. They're trying to create. That's keeping people on the. I think my attorney at the time described it as on the wheel. However you want the circle to look, it's on the wheel. It's keeping their jobs going, whether or not there's a case here or not, whether or not this is something that needs to continue to go on. Yes, my case should have stopped months ago. And I asked my attorney at the time, what is happening? Why is this continuing to go on? What has changed? Was my direct question. I'm even receiving letters in the mail telling me that we're preparing for the final last hearing, because anybody know you're dealing with CPS, right? You're dealing with different multitudes. You're dealing with different hearings that you have to attend from time to time, and there are quite a few. And during these hearings, they're bringing evidence, or they're, making decisions whether or not, should your rights be terminated as a parent. They're making decisions or not of you having, plans like safety plans, or making decisions of things they're giving for you to do as the parent, whether it's counseling, whether it's watching old VHS videotapes like I had to go and do, or services, things of that nature. They're building the case, and each hearing is normally something different. It's just their CPS protocol that they want you to attend all these hearings, and by the time you're done with the hearings, they're going to make a final determination as far as where are you going to be able to get your children back or not, or they're going to be adopted out into the system. Okay, so that's why these hearings are so highly important. That's why it's so highly important as well for you to have wise legal counsel, because you're facing a judge. You're dealing with, I do believe, like Attorney Vince said, this might be the case of your life, is dealing with the where your children are going to end up at when it's all over, said and done. And that's serious, right? That's something that normally requires an attorney, because you're in courts, you're in several hearings, you're meeting in front of a judge, you're dealing with CPS. Trust me, CPS has their attorneys, okay? And they know the system, right? So you're going up against a giant, not only a government giant, you're dealing with a giant that has my gosh, have lawyered up with attorneys that knows the laws. And to me, if you ask me, CPS have their own set of laws. It's not regular laws. They're not standard laws. It's almost like they create their own laws within laws. And you have to know your laws to know if your laws are being violated as a parent. And normally, if you hear what I'm saying, this is nothing that you can normally take on your own. Not saying you can't, but it seems like the chances are very slim when you do. And the chances are much higher when you do have wise legal representation like Attorney Vince. Okay. Some attorney that's wise, that knows CPS laws. Okay. That knows CPS laws, and also an attorney that is aggressive and that is willing to do the work to fight for you so your children can return back home where they belong. Okay, that's how serious it is. And trust me, I get it. When it first came to me, I think I'm pretty I can comprehend for the most part. I mean, I like to figure things out, and normally I can. And with that being said, when I originally started, I thought I could represent myself. I thought it was going to be a cakewalk until I heard the CPS staff and the caseworkers and social workers and the CPS attorneys and these trough of people that me, myself, and I went in with just my little folder with my paperwork of information. And I seen a trough again of people, about 20 people that was on the other side of me. And I'm like, oh my God. And when I presented what I had, I remember them murmuring and laughing like, she had no idea what is happening. And guess what? They were right. I didn't. I had got in over my head. Have you ever been in something that was outside of your capacity and you was like, excuse me, hold up just one second. Excuse me. You know, I need to take a pause here. I need to reset this thing. And I assure you, when I came back, I was equipped. And so what I did at that point, when I realized I can fight this giant by myself, I hired they will offer you a pro bono attorney. But unfortunately, from my experience, and again, I am no attorney, but I am a wise mother who did survive CPS and overcame CPS and is able to live and write a book to share my story, which is called The Beautifully Bruised, Crushed for Christ. I'm speaking about my experience. And the only reason why I wrote that book is because God, I believe, told me you need to start journaling and sharing your experience of what you went through. And at the time, I didn't understand, why would I do that? Sometimes some of the lowest, the biggest challenges and the lowest valleys you have in your life, you don't want to always share it, right? You want to keep that to yourself. But I never knew that God was going to use my story to help encourage people, to let people know that, hey, I've been through that and he brought me out. And the same God that brought me out is the same God I'm talking to you about today that can do the same for you. That's why I tell people, I always recommend that you put God first, because he will give you the strength like nothing else. I assure you, if God hadn't given me the strength to fight CPS and the knowledge and the wisdom, I can't tell you I'll be sitting here in front of you today as a parent who overcame CPS. And at the end of all those hearings I attended, and I want to just back up a little bit. I know my attorney told me at the time, I shared with her, I said, what has changed? Like, why is this continuing to go on? I mean, nothing has changed in the hearings, and I've passed all my drug tests. I don't know why is this going on for nearly a year? And she literally had to share with me, this is not about you or your child. Okay. This is not about you or your child. This is bigger than the both of you. And I was kind of stunned when she shared that, because at the time I thought it was about us. That's the reason why I've been coming to all these hearings and going through all these recommended services that they placed in, all these drug tests that they've having me take, the psychological evaluations, and going through nearly a year of these type of services, and you come to tell me this is not even about me or my child? And you know what? She was right. It wasn't. I do believe from what I experienced, my personal experience is that it was about money, power, and politics. Some people, unfortunately, like to just throw their power around. You could be doing everything they've asked you to do. You have crossed every T, you have dotted every I, and there is still something that they're finding with your case, or something that's wrong, or something they've added to it, and it just does not make sense. And I have to tell you, you have to really get out of your head of thinking like, why is this not making sense? Because honestly, it didn't make sense. And that's the reason why I say you need to lean on God, because God will give you a peace that passes all understandings. And obviously, you've done the work, you've done everything CPS has asked you to do, and they still won't release your child. That's why you need that peace that passes all understandings. Because guess what? If you go into those courtrooms, or if you deal with that caseworker, and she see that you are irate, she see that you're disgruntled, she see that you are refusing to cooperate, she see you have an attitude, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't have an attitude. Of course, anybody will feel a certain way when it comes to their children, and you're doing the work that they're requesting, they still won't return your children home. Anybody would feel a certain kind of way, right? So I'm not saying your attitude is not valid. I'm just saying don't let that be a reason why they'll try to continue to keep your children, because now they're going to say, okay, maybe something wrong with this person mentally. Maybe this person has anger issues. Maybe that person, he or she, needs to be in anger management. And guess what? There'll be another class added onto you that you're going to have to do. And if you do not finish those classes in the time frame allowed, guess what then? They can automatically adopt your child out. See what I'm saying? So don't think that this is normal, because it's not. And the sooner you realize that, the better off you would be. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I have actually heard Attorney Vance to tell you that don't see this as something normal. Why? Because it's not. It's not. It can really be a test of your own sanity, of building and learning patience. I learned a lot of patience. I literally remember being in my counseling session, and my counselor, thank God that she had integrity. She told me, we have went over everything they've asked me to go over. And it wasn't a lot of extensive things. I might have went to counseling, I don't know, maybe a month, even if that. And she said, I've done everything. So I'm going to reach out to your caseworker and see what else is it that she want me to cover. And she reached out to my caseworker, and she never came back with anything additional. So at that point, she recommended that, that she didn't see a reason to continue to prolong something with no merit, no reason behind it. And I think I remember that all of a sudden, I think that they ought to requested that they wanted a $10,000 brain test done. That, of course, would require more time, that, would prolong the hearings, because believe it or not, you're on a time stamp that when services has to be completed, drug tests have to be completed, psychological evaluations, coming to check your home, making sure all these things that they've added to you to be done. And if it's prolonged, again, that if you're in the system, I think you're in Texas, like they give you a year or so, if I'm stating it correctly, to get everything done. If it's not done, automatically they can adopt your child out, which is so sick and sad to me, seriously. And I think each state time frame is different. You would have to go to an attorney, Vince, someone like that, to validate that information. But I know here in Texas, it's like a year or so. And if somebody know, please feel free to put in the comments wherever state you are, because I have had people share before that they know that's something that was scary to them, that they want to make sure they did everything they required, because if not, again, CPS can automatically adopt your child if you don't do it within that certain time frame. Okay. So, but yeah, so you're looking at all that. You're on a time clock. You're literally on a time clock to get all this stuff done, whether if it's something you should be doing or not. Like I say, if you don't have a CPS caseworker who has integrity, she could just be adding stuff to you just to keep you busy while they're trying to pull up a narrative against you. You know, again, that's why I highly recommend to know God. You're going to need to know God when you're dealing with this beast called CPS. It is a war zone like nothing else. It can affect you mentally, physically, financially, emotionally, even spiritually. I've had someone to write to me and say, right now I question God because I'm going through so much. But you know what? That's what CPS wants you to do. Because God can give you that peace that CPS is taken away from you. And if you don't have no peace, if you're not careful, CPS will get the best of you and they'll make you want to quit. They'll make you want to give up, especially if you're working with somebody that has no integrity and they just want to throw their power around and prove that you're unfit. See, that's all they're going to say. I told you she was unfit. She didn't give up. But don't listen to their lies. You are fit. God giving you that child for a reason. Rather, if you have to go and get, utilize their services, get the counseling that you need, your own personal counseling, but do whatever you need to do to be the best version of you. And what I recommend, as I've always said, see that sign back there says, kneel to God, but stand up to anything else. Okay? That's there for a reason. Kneel to God in prayer, but stand up to CPS. Okay, that's what I did, and that's what helped me to get my child back home where he belonged years ago. I refused to give up. I refused to quit. I refused to give in. I don't care what it looks like, what it feels like. Some days I felt like I just want to collapse, fall to the ground. Some days I might have once I made it back in my house, but I didn't do it in front of them because they're watching you. They're watching you like Donkey Kong. Okay. They are. I seen them. And I was in those courtrooms. I was reading my book, but I can tell when someone is watching me. And I know, I want to say they didn't understand why I had a calmness like I did. Why wasn't I a nervous wreck? Because I have the peace of God. You might be doing your shenanigans. You might have did what you did, but guess what? One thing you can't take away is my faith and my peace and my trust in God. You couldn't take that away. And guess what? That weapon is what was used to defeat you. And I got my children back home. See, they can complain. CPS, your caseworkers complain when you're irate, when you're, argumentative, when you're not being in compliance or you're not asking or doing what they're asking you to do. They could easily talk about that. But have you ever heard somebody say, "Oh, I'm a write her up because she's being kind. I'm gonna write her up because she's doing all the services. I'm gonna write something about her because she appears to be trustworthy. I'm gonna write him up because there has a peace about them. They seem at peace. What we're doing is not getting next to them. It's not getting under their skin. Our attacks are not working. See why it's important to have peace? See why it's important to trust God? Because he can confuse the enemy. Where the same person was recommending a $10,000 test for your brain, how it doesn't make sense. Well, if she's who you say she is, then how is she able to sit in here and have peace and be cooperative? Speaking up for her, have legal representation that knows what to do, that knows CPS laws, and she's carrying herself or he's carrying himself in a professional manner. They know how to speak very well. They're groomed. They seem appropriate. So that's what I'm seeing is not matching your narrative. How can you fight somebody that's showing up, that's doing the work? As I look at every drug test that you submitted, and she had quite a bit you submitted, but she passed every one. How is that so? Okay, you say that she drugs, but she had numerous of drug tests, and every one of she passed. That same counselor said that went over what they wanted me to go over, even followed up with them to see was there anything else additional that CPS wanted in my counseling sessions. My caseworker never responded back. But when it was time to end my counseling session, all of a sudden a $10,000 brain test occurred. Thank God my counselor had integrity. And she said that I don't see fit why this is needed. And actually, she was so amazing. She actually shared with me what to do once I got back in that courtroom. See, you can talk about a person all you want, but I heard a pastor say, Pastor Kim shared that let your life outlive their lives. Okay, let your life outlive their lives. People have enough sense to look at you and watch what you post or what you say and what you do. Hopefully, they have enough sense to be able to determine whether or not what this other person said about you is true. It's simple. If somebody said, "Oh, such and such," I know you said this about him or her, but I don't see that. I don't see that in that person for some reason. And I have been looking at them and watching them. I've been conversating with them. They seem the same way all the time. They seem the same way all the time. That's something my grandmother told me. Lived to be 106 years. My grandmother, Rosalie Jones, who I love and miss dearly. Okay. She said, Trika, you the same way all the time. That says volume. That speaks volume. And then I didn't understand why she would say that. But now I do. Because normally a person that's the same way all the time, they're consistent. Okay. They're consistent. They're loyal. Okay. They are. They're consistent and they're loyal. And those are normally good qualities. They're normally good qualities. They're normally stable people, even though, I'm not saying life doesn't happen. It doesn't, make you do things differently. But for the most part, they're the same way all the time, is what my grandmother would say. The same way all the time. So normally these type of people, it's hard to try to paint them as something different. Because over time, if you think about it, as you're going into your court hearings, over time, like I say, they're looking at your character. They're looking at how you carry yourself. They're looking at how you dress. They're looking at all that. Some people look you up and down and say, okay, okay. Okay, okay. You know, hmm, hey. First impressions go a long way. I remember my attorney told me, when you go in the courtroom, carry yourself, which means don't go in there looking any kind of way. And normally, I don't know if you like me. If I'm at home, I might throw on a t-shirt and something comfortable or some jogging pants. But if I'm going to something business like, I'm not just gonna just go in there any kind of way. I'm always been very business minded. I am. I am. I do believe in. I do. I believe in taking care of business. I do. I don't know where I got it from, but I see things differently. And that's something my grandma said, oh, you a businesswoman. And she would say it candidly, like joking, like back in the day, years ago. And we would laugh. But I'm like, you know what? Maybe she right. Because I do see things in a business perspective. And I do believe you got to have fun too. You have to enjoy your life. But there are certain things that do require business mind. You have to be business minded, looking at different things from a different perspective. Okay. That's why I say if you have a court case, I can't just go in there any kind of way. I can't just go in there thinking I know these laws when I know I don't. And you're in there with a judge, okay? And you don't know what kind of judge he is. Maybe he's liberal, maybe he's conservative, maybe he's democratic. It's a lot of things that goes in place when you're dealing with these CPS cases. And I assure you, from what I've seen, and I did sit in different hearings, and they weren't even my hearings, but I just want to, again, being business minded, I want to see how different people are going through their cases. And sadly, a lot of cases that I witnessed, they were minorities. They were minority parents. They were single parents. They were parents or people that seemed to be who lacked education, that lacked resources. These were the ones that were sitting up in these courtrooms. I assure you of that. I know someone personally recently told me the way that she lost her child is because she was a young person, maybe 18, 19 years old at the time, and had no idea what CPS really consisted of. And she lost her child due to the lack of knowledge. She knew she just wasn't maturity wise. She wasn't willing to She didn't know what all her rights was, and she never did follow up on that. And they CPS will use that, and they will take your kids because of it. So that's why, again, I can like scream and say you need wise legal counsel. If there is something outside of your capacity that you know honestly you cannot comprehend, and it's nothing wrong with that, right? Because I didn't go to law school. You might didn't go to law school neither. I don't know the laws that Attorney Vince knows. Okay. So it's a reason why they went to school to learn this experience, to know how to represent you in these courtrooms. And I assure you that they're going to ask you questions. And if you're not careful, you can mess your own self up. I'm going to give you one example. When I was in a courtroom, I never will forget this one particular time. And I had legal representation. Okay. Because again, I realized that I could not fight this giant by myself. So I had to hire a wise legal attorney to represent me. And once I did that, I never will forget that a CPS attorney had specifically was asking me questions that was almost I considered to be railroad questions. Like if you don't answer the question correctly, that they could actually end up leading you to another question, and they could almost make you appear to be something that you're not. So she asked me that one particular question, but she asked me that in different dimensions. I never will forget. And by the grace and wisdom of God, all I knew was to not answer the question by answering the question. If that makes sense. If that makes sense, I knew not to answer the question by still answering the question. And after that, I heard the judge say, obviously, you are dealing with a very intelligent woman. Please move on, because she is not answering the question. So I think she was letting that the attorney that represents CPS, where you're trying to think you're going to get over on her, you're not. Again, the judge responded after she asked me that question more than once in different ways. The judge finally said, okay, obviously you're dealing with a very intelligent woman. Move on to your next question. Okay. Because at that time, I figured out what I was dealing with, what I was truly dealing with. I remember at the very last second walking into those court chambers, me and them and their attorney asking me, who is your attorney? Who is your new attorney? Okay. And what law firm do they work for? And I, again, I smiled as we was walking in the chambers, and I said I would have to provide that information. I don't have it with me. I didn't have it as we're literally walking into the courtroom. It was a last minute question that their attorney was asking me. I didn't answer. I didn't. Okay. I'm not going to give the devil any more room to try to prove something that I know is not true. Okay. That's what I'm not going to do. That's not going to happen. So again, I just highly recommend that know what you're dealing with. Know what you're dealing with. Do the work. Become trustworthy. Are you a trustworthy person? Seriously, ask yourself that. Because life sometimes can listen. Life can serve you some things that can make you come out of being the person that you know you are. You could have experienced some things in life that have changed how you see things, that have changed how you do things. You might not be the person who you once was. And I'm not saying you don't have a reason to be. Life can really serve you some listen, it can take you there. It can change your heart. It can change your spirit. And that's why, again, I cannot emphasize the power of knowing God, because you need to put on a daily armor. I mean, daily, not every week, not every month. You need to put on your daily armor to make sure your own heart is in the right place, to make sure you in the right heart posture, to make sure that your spirit is right. The devil does not play fair. He comes to kill, steal, and destroy. And he will if you're not careful. He will. Okay. So I just, like I said, that's important to me, is being trustworthy, because I have to ask my own self that sometimes. Are you trustworthy? Are you someone that's reliable, that people can depend on? Are you the same way all the time? Like my grandma would say it. I think that's another way of saying being trustworthy. She said, you're the same way all the time. And that's a good thing. That's a great thing, actually. It's a great thing, because normally you are a loyal person. Are you genuine? Are you genuine? Are you consistent? Because normally, if you normally come from a good place. Is your life outliving their lives? I've had people to tell me, you know what? I heard of what they said. I just don't see that. You know what I'm saying? I just don't see what they see. You can't go by what people tell you. No, get to know a person for yourself. Don't listen to their narratives. Like we talk about, like I know I definitely say CPS try to build a narrative against you. What if my counselor would have went off of what CPS said? What if she had not got to know me for herself? See, everybody don't do and say things for the right reasons. They can literally just be saying something to get you to turn against the person, and it can really be a good person. It can be a person that can be good for you. Okay, and again, the devil don't want nothing good for you. He want to destroy what you have. Okay. So again, I just wanted to share that because I think it's something important that we all can do a self check, including myself. I'm not sharing nothing with you that I don't do with myself. Sometimes I have to check myself and be like, okay, um, but look at that a different way. Look at it a different way. Thank God for discernment because God will give you discernment about something, even if you're not looking at it the right way. God will show you a different way to look at it. See why it's important to get to know God. I mean, I hope it makes sense. Because it's like when we can't figure things out, guess who can? When you don't know what to do, guess who does? When I went through my attorneys, when I was dealing with my CPS case years ago, when I tried to do it on my own, when that didn't work out, then I tried to get a pro bono attorney, and the pro bono attorney told me, well, worst case scenario, if you don't get your child back, you can go visit them years later. Like I told you, that was a wrap. I got rid of that. And I'm like, you know what? I just need to make a wise decision, a mature decision, and just hire a reliable, an attorney who knows CPS laws, who is really in my best interest of bringing my child back home, who's going to do the work, whether, getting discoveries, whatever, knowing the legal laws, knowing what have happened in my case, and they able to determine the loopholes where CPS did violate my rights. I've shared before on the show when my attorney addressed the bench that day in front of the judge and shared that valuable, effective information of evidence. The next thing that occurred was what? The judge said, I cannot touch this. I cannot touch this. She literally raised her hands and said, and she leaned back and said, I cannot touch this. And the next thing, you know what happened? CPS was ordered to return my child back home where he belonged years ago. And at the very end of that hearing, all of a sudden, these same people that were against me was coming with me in agreement. And even CPS attorney, shared you overcame. Okay. So that is so, and why it's so detrimental and important that you want to hire an attorney like Attorney Vince. Call that number in the bottom of the screen, get that consultation so they can check, so he can see what's going on with your case, so you can get your babies back home where they belong. It is serious. It is serious. Don't be that next statistic. Don't let your child have to grow up not knowing what really happened. Or I even spoke to a mom as of yesterday saying that the home where the child is now, that they don't even really want to care to even communicate with the parent anymore because of so much that they're feeding that child. It's almost like the child is being alienated. Like they don't even want the child to even talk to the parent. The child is almost seemed to be brainwashed where they don't even want any relationship with the parent. You don't want that. You don't want that. It's good to think that you can take on certain things, and to a certain degree, you might can, but know what's in your capacity. Know what's in your capacity. Sometimes you have to love from a distance. Sometimes you have to, and when I say from a distance, let me rephrase that. You temporarily love from a distance with your child, but while you're doing that, be hiring an attorney that can help bring your child back home. Okay? Don't just take no for an answer. Don't settle for that. Don't take matters in your own hands. Talk to God. Pray to God for divine direction. I promise you that's what I did. I'm like, God, Daddy, what in the world is happening? People, they talked about Jesus. If you think listen, if they talked about Jesus, trust me, they're going to talk about you. Trust me, they are. Trust me, they will. I almost see it as a compliment now, because if it's something that, they're not talking about people that don't have nothing. It got to be something that you have, that they keep talking about you. I think one person say they don't realize they're actually fans. They're fans of you. They don't even realize it. That's the reason why they might be talking about you in a negative light, but you don't talk about people you don't care about. You don't talk about people that doesn't matter. Or is it something about them that you like or you wish you had, or it's something that, you know what I'm saying, that's keeping your name in their mouths. Okay. Come on. I'm telling you, I heard somebody say they don't realize that they're just confused fans. Because why do you watch people that you don't like? Why do you continue to talk about people you don't like? Why are they even on your mind? People are not on my mind that I don't care about. I don't think about. I don't, have a connection with or want to get to know or learn from. They're not. So, let them talk. Let them talk. Let them say whatever they want to say, but allow your life to outlive their lives. Allow your life to outlive their lives. Okay? Allow that. Everybody's not happy for you. Everybody don't want the best for you. I even remember sadly when I came out of the mess with CPS by the grace and mercy of God, I had somebody that was angry that I made it out. I had someone that was angry that I made it out. Who in their right mind would be angry that you got your kids back? Who will be, and this is years ago. And they continue to say comments about me and my children. And they continue to be angry. And it's not always strangers. It sadly can be family members. Pray for you got a family that's supportive and that's there for you. That means a lot dealing with CPS. That means a lot. I had family that was supportive of me. Why? Because they know what they're saying isn't true. I've had people have tried to do things to hurt me. I've had friends that have known me or associates or acquaintances said, I speak on your behalf. I know who you are. I know you love your kids. People, trust me, people know. Life will show them. Time will reveal who you really are. It will. Time will speak for itself. You don't even have to say nothing. I think it goes along with let your life outlive whose ever lies. Whatever lies they said about you, let your life outlive their lies. They'll be like, you still talking about that old lie? That girl then went on to something else. That boy then went on to something different. They done got them kids back and went on with their lives. A lot of times, I'm telling you, everybody, sadly, everybody are not, they're not trustworthy. They're not. Those enemies sometimes are just confused fans. Look at it like that. I have enough sense to realize if you talked about God, then it's no telling what you're saying about me. Okay. Because I'm not nowhere near God as far as great as God is, as as oh my God, as perfect as God is. And you talk about God, oh my God, be for real. Okay. So again, I just want to bring on something that can be motivational for you. This is Monday motivation. Stay encouraged. Keep trusting and believing in God. And I say that to say this: God will sustain you. He will keep you. He will protect you. He will propel you in ways, in places that others cannot. God is trustworthy. Okay. If you don't remember nothing else that I said from today's show, please remember and know that God is trustworthy. Okay. He will keep you when you can't even keep your own self. And I do really do. I believe that, and I know that to be true. Even when you want to give up, even when you want to throw in the towel, even when you don't know what else to do, God will sustain you. I've never seen God not um, um, do what He says. I've never seen God, and if He don't do it, it's normally a reason behind it. It's the old saying that God's rejection could really just be your protection. He knows that her heart. He knows his heart. He knows what they're trying to do to you. He knows the end game, the end result. You might not see it. You might not know it, but God knows it. He knows it. And you, guess what? God, you can trust God. That's a great thing. It's something about when you can trust a person. I promise you that. If I can't trust you, then I don't feel like I need you. I'm being honest. If I can't trust you, 9 times out of 10, I don't need you. I don't want to be with somebody that I can't trust. I don't care if it's business, personal, relationship. Trust is so important. I heard somebody that shared this weekend, even when you go through your storms, even when you go through your valleys, and we all have those days, right? You might do some things, you might say some things that may not been the best of decision, but you don't want to be around a person that if you say that, they're going to use that against you. They're going to try to create something that'll harm you or hurt you. That's not a person you can trust that would do you like that, y'all. It's not. A trustworthy person is somebody that is loyal, that is responsible, that is dependable, that can be there for you, whether they agree with you or not, but they normally are loyal to help you understand and help you be better. We all need help in this life. We all do. There are times when we just need somebody just to talk to. Again, that's why I love this show, because you can log in, you can tune in, you can like, you can subscribe. Attorney Vince comes on and shares his story. I mean, not his story, but he shares his wisdom. He shares his legal advice. He allows you to come on and share your story. You can call the number. If there's something that you're dealing with, you're facing, call and be a guest on the show. I got some guests that's getting ready to come on the show. They're going to share what they're going through with their CPS cases. I do think the more stories shared, the more we're better, we're more equipped to know how to handle our CPS cases. Why? Because knowledge is power. Okay. Transparency transforms. Normally, the more you know, the better it is. And again, when people come on here and share their CPS stories and share what they're going through, it helps you to understand what to avoid, what to do in case that case ever happens to you. This platform, you can log on 24/7. That's one thing I love about this digital world and technology. It don't cut off at a certain time. You can play the reruns. If you don't catch the live tapings, play it back, because it might be something that you can use that can help you. Or if you know somebody that may be going through a CPS case, share this with them. Share the link with them. Say this is something you might want to look into. Or if you know somebody that knows somebody, tell them to share the link. We're on 7 days a week with different stories, with different experiences that people are going through. Some stories are literally stories. I brought guests on where they overcame CPS. You can hear some of the things that they had to go through and what they did to overcome. Okay, including myself. Okay, you might hear about people that's going through something that you might be going through right now yourself, what they're doing and what you can learn what to do and what not to do. Knowledge is power. Transparency transforms. Okay. So I just want to tell you to stay encouraged. Do a self evaluation. Ask yourself, am I trustworthy? And you might can just write down some things. Okay. How am I trustworthy? What am I good at? And we all have good qualities about ourselves, right? What am I good at? Look at that, because at the end of the day, whether you have a CPS case or not, that is something that you want to be. You want to have a good character. You want somebody to be able to trust you and even trust your judgment. It says a lot about a person. It does. It can make you or break you. That's even something CPS look at. Is this person trustworthy? Should we give this person a second chance? Did we make a mistake by removing this child? Do we need to close and rule out this case because this person is trustworthy? We made a mistake. We thought the wrong thing. We had the wrong narrative about this person. Let's close out this case. Okay. And I assure you, if you are showing anything of being trustworthy, they're taking that in consideration. You're doing what you said you would do. You are consistent. Okay. You're genuine. Those are great qualities to have. So let that be your Monday motivation. Ask yourself, am I trustworthy? Ask the people I have in mind around me, are they trustworthy? That makes a difference too. Make sure you're associated with the right people. Okay. So I just want to bring that on today to tell you to stay encouraged. Please keep God first because He can be with you and strengthen you and guide you like nobody else to be the best version of you. Okay. Because we all work in progress at the end of the day. So don't never give up fighting for your children. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care what it feels like. Don't ever, 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 ever give up fighting for your children. God can turn that thing around right in the nick of time. It's an old saying that God may not come when you want, but He's always right on time. I assure you that. I don't think my case really literally started to turn around to almost at the very end in the nick of time. Sometimes God is just saying, can He trust you to go through it? And once you show that you're trustworthy, here we go with trustworthy again. See, God also sees if He can trust us. That's how important being trustworthy is. So ask yourself today, am I trustworthy? Am I around people that's trustworthy? Because it speaks volume and it does make a difference. Okay. So again, I hope you enjoy your day. Stay safe. Keep God first. Don't you ever give up fighting for your babies. They need you, they depending on you, and they love you. So keep fighting for your kids. Don't never give up. I am your host, Latrika Jones. Thank you for tuning in. Until our next show. Have a good day.